Join Yvette Walker every Tuesday at 4 o'clock p.m. on KMET ABC News Radio, 1490 AM, FM 98.1, and Internet KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show is dedicated to highlighting successful businesses and the individuals behind them. Yvette interviews the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 4 o'clock p.m.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
News, talk, and sports for the Inland Empire. AM 1490
From
KMET.
ABC News.
Banning, Beaumont,
I'm Daria
Redlands.
Aldinger. President Biden with a promise to a community shaken by gun violence.
That was in addition to me signing more executive actions to reduce gun violence than any of my predecessors at this point in their presidencies. Today, I'm announcing another executive order that will accelerate and intensify this work to save more lives more quickly.
The order signed in Monterey Park, California, includes an increase in the number of background checks to buy a gun. The U.S. responds to the collision of a Russian fighter jet and an unmanned U.S. drone.
The Pentagon telling Russia it won't be intimidated by how its pilots tried to disable a U.S. surveillance drone over the Black Sea.
U.S. and allied aircraft will continue to operate in international airspace, and we call on the Russians to conduct themselves professionally and safely.
Brigadier General Patrick Ryder saying the drone was not interfering with any Russian military activity. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
Ohio files suit against Norfolk Southern, seeking to hold the railroad financially responsible for last month's toxic train derailment.
This was an epic disaster, and the cleanup is going to be expensive, and it's going to take some significant dollars to put the people of East Palestine back as close as possible to the position they were before February 3rd.
State Attorney General Dave Yost. Shareholders sued Signature Bank and its 3 former top executives. The bank was the second to fail in less than a week. The head of U.S. space operations on Capitol Hill today says the U.S. must defend itself here on Earth and in space.
Both China and Russia continue to develop, field, and deploy a range of weapons aimed at U.S. space capabilities.
General Bradley Chance Saltzman telling the Senate Armed Services Committee how the newest branch of the military will spend its 2024 budget. You're listening to ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont Banning in the Pass area, this afternoon we'll have clouds and rain, the high 62. Cloud with rain heavy at times tonight into the first part of Wednesday, low tonight 50. It'll taper off later Wednesday, high 54. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, cloudy with periods of rain, the high temperature 64. And for the desert cities, mostly cloudy with a chance for some rain or drizzle, high 78. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi for Smart Talk 1490, KMET.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you guys. And everybody, please check out our special advisory committee by visiting scbrtalk.com and becoming familiar with our distinguished advisory committee. All right, everybody, today I have the distinct privilege, to introduce Andy Dale. He is a native of Claremont, California, and joined his brother Curt at Last Name Brewing in 2007. He is the managing partner in charge of all operations and market development. Andy caught the brewing bug in 1987 and has been involved with beer in some way ever since. Before joining Dale Brothers Brewery, Andy worked in the technology sector in the Boston area. At Avid Technology, he was the product manager for a number of Avid's most important innovations, including the first finishing platform for TV programming and a real-time self-healing storage array for broadcast workflows. He also had held product marketing and product management positions for a number of startups. Andy received his B.A. in economics and chemistry from Middlebury College and his M.B.A. in finance and business strategy from the University of Chicago. Thank you so much for being with us today, Andy.
Thank you very much, Yvette.
Beautiful. So, Andy, I have the privilege of having followed your brewery for quite a while. And so let's just address this up front after you share, kind of your background and what inspired you to pursue the brewing field. But we're going to touch on Dale Brothers Brewery versus Last Name Brewery. But before that, please share with us what inspired you to pursue brewing other than your brother Curt saying, hey, let's do this.
Yeah, I've actually been brewing somehow or been involved with brewing since about 1987. And it was shortly after college. So, yeah, I'm that old that I got into it. And somehow just it always held my imagination. My brother Curt and I talked from about 1988 about establishing our own place. We didn't know if that was going to be in California or if that was going to be on the East Coast. But at any rate, apparently we had a high opinion of ourselves.
Well, you and those that have supported you over 20 years now. This year, you are celebrating 20 years of brewing beer. Please talk a little bit about what made you decide to make Upland home.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting because 20 years ago, when we started setting up, there were two other production breweries in the general area. And one was Bayhawk Ales down in Irvine, and the other one was Craftsman over in Pasadena. So pretty far away. Most cities just didn't know what to do with a craft brewery. And they didn't understand, are we a bar? Are we what is this? And so our first couple, we checked with both Claremont and Pomona. And at that point, no blame, but it was just like they just didn't know what to do with us. And we actually, it was my brother that came to Claremont or to Upland and told the planners what he wanted to do. And they immediately said, oh, that's light manufacturing. And if you want to do light manufacturing, whatever you're manufacturing, you can be here, here, or here. And so take your choice. And so they immediately kind of opened their arms to this thing that was kind of mysterious and scary, I guess, to a lot of kind of city governments at that time.
I can imagine, right? Especially being a brewery and, residents not knowing what it's about and having, kind of that concern being expressed to city council members or planning commissioners, I can imagine.
Exactly.
So early on, your brewery was known as Dale Brothers Brewery, which is your last name, you and your brother's last name. And, branding is everything, especially when I'm sure you're entering that field. So please talk a little bit about the very interesting dynamic that you encountered from a copyright standpoint and having to change your brand, having to change your name, what that looked like, and how you were able to overcome that. It's a major barrier, right?
Yeah, you had to bring this up, huh?
I did, because I want people to hear how you were able to overcome it, and you're still successful today. That was a big
Right.
deal.
So yes, we started out as Dale Brothers Brewery, and we got some what turned out to be questionable advice about on the trademarking, and basically we had a lawyer that said, "Well, really, nobody can tell you that you can't use your name in for your company," and then we sent our trademarking the paperwork in to get the trademark approved, and it came back denied. So we called another, actually a marketing consultant, and said, "Hey, we're just trying to use our name in the name of our business, and nobody can tell you that you can't use your name." And she was like, "No, that's not true at all. I mean, if your name's Apple, you can't, start making computers and name it after yourself." So, at any rate, it turned out that we had to. The other brewery had beat us by about 9 months as far as the usage, and we were gonna have to do it. And it took us a significant amount of time to actually pull the Band-Aid off. But we went through it was a fun marketing exercise, actually. Not fun on the financial side, but the marketing exercise was fun. And we came up with about 75 names that were possibilities. And Last Name Brewing was on there from the very beginning. We kind of laughed it off, and it just seemed like it wasn't going to make it. But suddenly, as we went through it was in the top 5, and I guess that's the name. So there you go. So it was painful. It cost a lot of money, of course, to rebrand and all that. But it was something that we had to do. So that makes it.
And here you are today, 20 years into it, still successful. And the fact that you were able to carry that sense of humor into that, very stressful situation, I could imagine, and have, the community rally behind you, support you, and make your brew, one of the more popular offerings here in not only in California, but really everywhere. I can't think of anybody that doesn't know what the Pomona Queen is, right? I'm not necessarily a beer drinker myself, but even I know what the Pomona Queen is, which is your flagship, right?
Yes. Yes. The Pomona Queen is probably better known than the name of our brewery. So, but it was, with a consumer brand like that, that's obviously difficult. But like you said, people did rally around us, and actually pretty much everybody's still calling us Dale Brothers anyways. So yeah.
That's how I think of you initially. I always thinking Dale Brothers, Last Name Brewing. It's kind of like Dale Brothers, Last Name Brewing. It's kind of 2 for 1 in my mind.
Yeah, I still slip. And so, and we changed our name back in 2016. So yeah, I guess old habits die hard.
Well, your branding obviously worked, so it's still stuck around, right?
Well, thank you.
So let's talk a little bit right now about the microbrewing business in general, and how Last Name Brewing fits into the larger landscape these last 20 years.
Oh, in the last 20 years. Well, as I mentioned before, things have changed significantly. I think in the up in Portland, Oregon, up in Seattle, and even down in a little bit in San Francisco and San Diego, there were pretty vibrant craft beer markets, and a number of craft breweries and all that. But the Orange County, LA County, Inland Empire really took a long time to kind of catch up with the latest wave. And so when we started out as a production brewery only. And so we were trying to make beer and distribute all of our beer to local restaurants and bars and grocery stores. And if you're not making a lot of beer, that's a really tough way to make a living. And so I think one of the things now there may be over 1,000 breweries in California total. I wouldn't be surprised if 60%, maybe more than that, probably more than that, are probably within a 2-hour drive of our brewery, depending on traffic. And so it has exploded in the Southern California area, but and nationally, of course. But I think there are kind of three things that made it all possible. And one was social media, which really supplied if we all had to pay for print advertising or radio or television advertising, it just wouldn't make sense. There's no way to make ends meet. So social media, while it's not always free, it's inexpensive for sure. The second thing that happened was the introduction, I guess, of inexpensive brewing equipment. And so back 20 years ago, pretty much all of the equipment was American made or European made. And it still is significantly more expensive than the stainless steel that started coming in from China. And so it was right around 2000, early 2000s that Chinese companies really started getting into it, and they just got better and better and better at doing that. And they were charging 1/3 to half the cost of the American made stuff. So suddenly the capital, the barrier to entry was significantly reduced. And the last thing, it's the tasting room. I don't know how long you've been going up to wine country or whatever, but it used to be that you would walk into a winery, they would give you a tour, which was free. They would hand you a glass, which was free, and then they would serve you as much wine as you wanted, which was free. And now if you go to Napa, it's a little more expensive than that. And the craft beer industry has kind of followed the same path. And so the only way for a small craft brewery to really get off the ground is the cash flow that comes from a tasting room. So, yeah. So you can sell a pint for $6 or $7 rather than $1.25 in a keg to a restaurant.
Right. So what would you say makes Last Name Brewing special or stand out in the landscape of microbreweries today?
We've always been a little bit weird in terms of the craft beer industry in this area, and one of the ways we're a little bit weird, it's not the only way, but one of the ways is, the craft beer industry, especially in California, really got established on kind of big West Coast styles and really the IPA, the West Coast IPA. So that was kind of Stone and Ballast Point and those breweries. And that actually worldwide, if you go to a craft brewery in England or Ireland or France or Australia, you can bet they're going to have at least one big IPA on tap. So IPA has really dominated the market. We went the other way. We decided that we were going to make lagers. So we started out as a lager house, and really my brother was the one that kind of pushed ahead with kind of a style that was, well, as he likes to say, you could drink a pitcher with a friend and still walk home. And I did say walk. I said walk. But yes, yeah. And so we were looking for balanced, enjoyable beers that are maybe a little more traditional than others, than some of the bigger styles that have come out in recent history, because beer is a very old craft.
Yes, right. How old would you say that it is, actually?
Well, prehistory.
It's thousands, right?
Yeah,
Thousands
exactly.
of years old.
Yeah,
It's been around for a while.
Mesopotamia, yeah, but there's actually, if you want a full history of the beer in the world, there's a comic book, and it's called I don't know, just look up comic book and beer, and it's a really fun read, and you learn a lot.
Wonderful. So, in addition to your Pomona Queen Lager, what other types of brews do you produce?
So as I said before, we started making lagers. Pomona Queen was one of our first two beers that we started producing, and has been the beer that's just been a stable, the most stable seller in our repertoire. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to have a tasty room these days, anywhere in the world, but particularly in Southern California, you got to be making an IPA or two. And so it took us about 7 years. It was probably around 2010 that we actually introduced our first ale. But even then, it was that whole choice of doing that was really informed by the styles that we had been making before. So even when we did come out with our first American IPA, we were really still going for balance. And that beer, in terms of an IPA, it was about as low as you can go in alcohol, is about as low as you can go in bitterness, and still call it an American IPA. And so it still does inform that our origins still inform what we do here. But that's not to say we don't throw in a couple of surprises now and then. So we've made some 14% beers. We've done we've actually won a few awards even for IPAs. So that's cool. So we had to, because of the tasting room, because of the realities in the market, we had to branch out.
Right. And so I understand that Last Name Brewery is the largest or the oldest lager house in Southern California. That, coupled with all of the awards that you've received, please talk a little bit about some of those awards and what that means when you're looking at, brewing beer and how that rates against, its counterparts.
Yeah. So, competitions are always interesting. And so a lot of it feels like first of all, the price of admission is you got to have a good beer. So, if you send in a bad beer, it's probably not going to do very well. But even then, probably, most of the beers that are being sent into a competition are the best examples that breweries have at that point. And so you're really hoping to score points with maybe 4 people that are tasting and rating the beer on that particular day. And we've gotten pretty lucky over time. And so we've won quite a few medals at the LA beer competition, and at state fair competition as well. And that one's pretty important. And obviously it's just amongst our 1,000 breweries in California. And whereas the LA beer competition is an international competition. And then the biggest one really is the Great American Beer Festival, the biggest annual one. And we have won a couple of medals there. And we don't win every year, but yeah, it's we've had our share of success there. And those beers have really been for beers that are in our wheelhouse. So light, very drinkable beers, and it seems to work. So yeah,
I love it, and I love that you allow your brewers to kind of experiment and explore new flavors. And I know that this month is very special because the Pink Boots Society is a national organization of female brewers, and I want you to share a little bit about what that is and what you're going to be doing in recognition of that.
Sure. Yes. So the Pink Boots Society is it's a organization that is really trying to get more women involved in all sorts of businesses that, well, they all have to do with fermentation. But it can be beer, it can be wine, it can be distilled products. It's an international organization. It's really only open to people that are in the brewing industry. But what it's really trying to do is just make the whole industry more inclusive, because it does tend to be a little bit bro heavy. Lots of beards, baseball hats, flannel, and yeah. And I guess everything except the beard, really, anybody can do that. But and it just so happens that we have a female crew here. And so our head brewer, Hannah Renard, has been with us and is our head brewer. And she, every year, Pink Boots does a collaboration day. And let's see, Country Malt Group distributes what's called the Pink Boots blend, which is a blend of hops that they distribute to breweries. And then the challenge is to come up with a beer that uses those hops in a new and innovative way. So Hannah came up with the idea of a interesting beer. It's a blonde ale, and it's got coconut and pineapple. And let me try to say this. It's called Sponge Blonde Pink Pants. So
the name is adorable.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's really good. It's with a lot of fruit beers, the key to it is to complement the flavors of the beer. So you still want it to taste like beer, not just like fruit juice. And she did an excellent job on that. And as a matter of fact, last year's Pink Boots beer, which was Amelia Beerheart, was made with hibiscus, and it was a saison made with, and so it turned pink, which was really cool. And hibiscus, of course, has kind of a cranberry kind of character to it. Right. And she won her first blue ribbon at the California State Fair last year with Amelia Beerheart. So we celebrated.
I love it. And the whole tie-in, because people that know should also know that you're right next to Cable Airport, right? So I like that nod to Amelia Earhart, and you're brewing right next to the airport, and everything in context is just absolutely brilliant. So we're coming,
you got it.
Right? It's perfect. It's brilliant. So I absolutely love it. But we're coming up on a break, so we're going to break right now. Andy, give me one moment. So everybody listening right now, Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talks Southern California Business Report, right now speaking with Andy Dale of Last Name Brewing, managing partner of the oldest lager house in SoCal. Last Name Brewing was founded by Curt Dale, born out of a passion for home brewing and a talent for winning medals at the LA County Fair. When we return.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily non-stop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
Every 2 seconds, someone needs a blood transfusion. Be on the giving side. Livestream Blood Bank supports patients in 80 Southern California hospitals. Call 1-800-TRY-GIVING for more information and to set an appointment.
The University of Laverne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in Laverne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of Laverne. go.laverne.edu.
City of Hope is driven to making a difference in the lives of people with cancer and diabetes. We accomplish this by conducting innovative research and providing outstanding care. If you or a loved one has received a cancer diagnosis, go to cityofhope.org to learn more about how our innovative approach could change your outcome.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker here with ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV, talking with Andy Dale of Last Name Brewing. He is the managing partner of the oldest lager house in SoCal. Last Name Brewing was founded by Curt Dale, born out of a passion for home brewing and a talent for winning medals at the LA County Fair. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Andy.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, we had, general overview of Dale Brothers transitioning to Last Name Brewing, and some of the things that make you stand out as, a beacon and the oldest lager house in SoCal. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for sharing, that opportunity for women to find a segue into the industry through the Pink Boots Society. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love the recipes and, the formulas that you've been working on. And, I may want to try that coconut pineapple one at some point. It sounds really, really enticing, actually. So
it's quite refreshing.
It sounds that way. So, and my relationship with you goes way back, to the times when I would come and, gather items to donate for fundraisers in our community, in our region. And you were always so generous for, multiple tastings and bringing in and supporting these nonprofits. So please talk a little bit about your community involvement and how it is you've been able to continue to support nonprofits in the region.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we have, it's always been one of our goals to really use what we have to help local communities, the local community out. And, it'd be one thing if we were selling dental floss or something like that. It's like you can't make money by donating. Yeah, nobody's going to buy it. But we're making beer. We're making something that it's a fun product. And so it just kind of goes naturally. So, when's the last time you went to a fundraiser that didn't have beer? Well,
it's kind of a key ingredient to the fundraisers that I've seen, right? They have the beer and the wine flowing. It's kind of one of the main staples of a fundraiser.
Yeah, and I may also have a little bias because I only end up at fundraisers with beer. So, but it's it's been an important part of what we try to do. I think definitely the biggest one that we ever did was our Brews and Bros festival, which started out as our birthday party, and we would have a festival up at Cable Airport. Bob Cable would donate the space, and which was fantastic. And we generally had, I think, between 30 and 40 breweries show up for that. And that was a benefit for the Claremont Educational Foundation, which I'm kind of keen on because my son was in the Claremont Unified School District schools. But that was definitely our biggest ever. For a number of years there, I think that Claremont Educational Foundation was making somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 from the event. So it was a true fundraiser, and got a lot of people out for the day too. So it got in. The only thing that kind of brought it to a halt was pandemic.
Mm. Well, it sounds like now's the time to start bringing it back, because it's an event that's going to continue to grow and benefit, the community. And it sounds like a wonderful fundraiser. $35,000 for your school district to, provide resources, books, equipment, whatever. I mean, that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. So
Yep.
with that said, please talk a little bit about your journey scaling, right? Because you have had to scale, to support the demand of your delicious beers. Please talk about that scaling process and your brewing production.
Sure. So when it was actually my brother that took the first step of establishing a brewery in Upland, and he was trying to do it on a shoestring. And so it started out in 1,100 square feet, and that included the office space, that included the refrigeration space, it included all the tanks and everything. So it was 1,100 square feet with 4-barrel tanks in it. We found little ways to grow there and to take over a space here and part of a space over there. So we eventually ended up at about 3,300 square feet, which is, for a craft brewery, is still pretty small. What really made us scale up was the tasting room. So when we started, the tasting room business wasn't really a thing. And so we moved into that space and just planning to distribute beer. And that's a really, really hard business model. And but at any rate, we found actually a person that used to work for us on the brewing side came back from Green Flash, and he was like, "You won't believe what they're doing down there. They're selling beer out, and they're selling a lot of beer." And so we immediately tried to find some place to move to where we could establish a tasting room, that the fire department would be cool with it, and because that other place it couldn't do it. And so that was really the impetus to move, was just that, to find some place where we could start benefiting from the tasting room and the cash flow that brings in. We had a number of dead ends that cost a lot of money. I think we tried 3 different places and got to various steps in each one of them. But for instance, one of them, the units only had 200 amp power, and we needed 400 amp, and which was okay, except in a business park, if you upgrade one unit, you have to upgrade all of them. And we just couldn't quite do that for everybody there. So, that got to be a little bit expensive, but we eventually landed here at Cable Airport, and in 8,200 square feet, which seemed monstrous and cavernous when we first walked into it, and seemed like we could never outgrow it. And now it doesn't seem all that big, but
now you're looking for more space to expand, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, we've the good thing here is we got 22-foot ceilings, and so we can take advantage of that. It doesn't all have to be floor space anymore. And so rather than having 4-barrel tanks, our largest tank right now is 60 barrels, and we've got 2 of those. And so we're finding ways to use less floor space and more ceiling height.
Very good.
Yeah, and so we and that was, let's see, we moved in here in 2012, and it was, we had a great few years in there. There was a lot of growth going on.
Wonderful. So what would you say to those that are looking to explore the brewing field and become brewers themselves?
Things have changed pretty dramatically in the craft beer industry. It used to be that there were a few programs around, and so my brother went to one of them, and that was the American Brewers Guild. And so they would have online classes for even back in like whatever that was, 1998. They would have online classes, and they would teach you the chemistry, the basics of the chemistry and the biology and all that kind of stuff. These days, well, it also depends on which side of the business you want to be in. I've spent most of my time on the business side, and so I got an M.B.A. I admit that might be a little bit of overkill, but it's doesn't hurt either. But in terms of if you want to really be on the brewing side, there are some great programs these days, and UC Davis has a great program. There's one down at UCSD, I believe. There's some really good biochem programs that come out. So really, there's a lot more. There's scientists coming into this field now, because what you have to remember about brewing is beer is actually made by a living organism. It's made by yeast. And it sounds kind of funny, but if your yeast isn't happy, you're not going to be happy. So yeah, mama ain't happy, nobody happy. So
the secret is happy yeast.
Happy yeast. And yeah, we could spend an hour. Well, I could spend an hour on yeast, but so understanding the biochemistry of how to keep it as healthy as possible and all that kind of stuff is really important. And so, we get every once in a while, we'll get a book of resumes from the recent graduating classes from the universities. And wow, I mean, there are some serious biochemists coming out going into the brewing industry.
Oh my goodness. Well,
yeah. And there's, the other way to do it is to still do it the way we kind of did it. And you get the brewer, the homebrew bug, and you try to perfect and do as much education as you can. There's plenty of sources for education, whether it's, books, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So you can also go that direction. And it may just take a little bit of, self-discipline.
Right. And so with all of these ingredients that makes Last Name Brewing who they are, happy yeast, right? Fermentation, all of these great little elements, please talk about and share your most memorable experience brewing.
Now I can tell that I'm going to be hearing happy yeast for a long time now. But let's see. Let's see. Most memorable. It's never the good stuff that's the most memorable. It's usually the disasters. And my most memorable, definitely, I was in the brewery, and there were a few people in there, and I was filling some kegs for a couple of late delivery orders, and I had a keg in each hand, and I turned around, and there's this thing called a carbonation stone that you hook up carbon dioxide to, and the carbonation stone may stick a couple of 18, 24 inches into the tank. And I swung around and I completely sheared off the port to the carb stone. And the only way to keep the beer carbonated and to continue to keg it was I was going to have to take this 2-foot long thing out of a tank full of beer and replace it. So I got goggles on, I got overalls on, and everything, and they did no good at whatsoever. I did some deep breathing for a little while, and then I went and I pulled out the carb stone, and there was immediately about a 12-foot rope of beer under 15 pounds of pressure coming out of the bottom of that tank. And the only way to get the carved stone in was to get in front of it and push the carved stone in. And so I took it directly to the chest. So that's my, and it was hilarious about 2 weeks later.
That's usually how those things play
Yeah.
out, right? In the moment,
Exactly.
it's not so funny, but when you look back on it, it's like, okay, that was great. That was memorable. That was funny.
I was kind of terrified, but it was a lot of beer.
So sorry.
That's okay. I got over it.
Yes, and I'm glad you're still here with us today. Thank you. So, as you know, and as we all know, we are looking at St. Patrick's Day. It's coming down the line, and you've been celebrating for the week, right? It's not only St. Patrick's Day, but it's St. Patrick's Week. What does that look like at Last Name Brewing?
So I wish that there was a St. Patrick's Day every month of the year. I mean, I think it should just become a monthly holiday. It is definitely our biggest overall week of the year, other than our anniversary party. It's a lot of fun. People get to, we get to decorate the place in all sorts of, kind of tacky stuff that would otherwise not really go. And this place turns into a little bit of a party. And it really has kind of turned into a week because we have what we call our Shameless Saturday, which is based on our Irish red ale that we make for that time of year. And then, especially this year, that was last Saturday. And now we got St. Patrick's coming up on Friday, and that's awesome. So, it should be that way all the time.
Says the brewer at Last Name Brewing, of course, right? Which I guess begs the next question: what makes beer so popular on St. Patrick's Day?
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I guess we could just turn that question around and just say, what makes beer so popular every day?
Right.
But when it comes down to it, it's just a fantastic excuse to, really drink beer and have a great time. But no, I mean, obviously there is a connection of Guinness and Harp with Ireland and all that kind of stuff. And I've been to Ireland, and beer is generally available, and and there are people in the pubs at noon that are enjoying it. And so I think there's some connection there, maybe. But it's really just a good excuse to drink beer. Yeah.
Right. I know. Every St. Patrick's Day, everyone is celebrating St. Patrick, and they're very, their homage to their Irish, roots, right?
Exactly.
I'm 1/8, so technically everyone's a little bit Irish, right? Yes.
No, I'm like 0. I'm like completely 0. Yeah.
Oh wow, wonderful. But you're making the
really
beers
strange.
and the brews that people absolutely love and adore.
Yeah. And again, that's a kind of beer that's in our wheelhouse, because that's a really malty ale that's, it's a balanced beer. And so making an Irish red, it's called Shameless McDale. And it's a Irish red that we make with, well, we call it our green Irish red because we make it with 100% organic grain. And we can't call it organic because our brewery isn't certified organic by the USDA or whoever does that. But it is our green Irish beer.
So what can people expect when they go visit Last Name Brewers for a St. Patrick's Day celebration, or any celebration of any day when, as you so eloquently stated, is a good day to enjoy a beer? Right?
It's going to be a fun day here on St. Patrick's Day. We've got a few things going on. We, as I mentioned before, will probably be putting the last couple of kegs of Shameless McDale on tap. We of course have green glitter beer because what's St. Patrick's Day without green? It used to just be green, but now they put glitter in it too. They have food quality glitter. I don't know how that works. And for people that don't really enjoy beer, such as yourself, we also have an orange glitter mango seltzer. So not my cup of tea, but we also will have. We frequently have bands here, but on St. Patty's Day, we really do try to kind of go with more of a Irish folk type music, and so we have a band coming in. It's their name is Ike's Creek, and they are they're a really good band, and they're going to be playing acoustic, and so that should be really fun. And then we'll have a couple of food trucks, one of which is very popular in this area. It's called Cousin's Maine Lobster Truck, I think. Yeah. And when they come to the brewery, I don't know if they serve more lobsters or we serve more pints, but it's pretty competitive. And it's a very, very popular truck. So we'll have that going on as well. So it's going to be a really fun day.
Oh my goodness. Tell us a little bit more about that lobster truck, because that just sounds delicious, and how that pairs with your beers.
Lobster pairs with everything, as does beer. So the lobster, Cousin's Maine Lobster does lobster rolls. And so if you've never had one, it's as simple as just lobster on basically a hot dog bun with butter. So, what can go wrong?
Right to the point, right?
Exactly.
A little bit of bread to hold it, lots of lobster, and just top it off with some of that warm, tasty butter and a brew.
I've waited
You're
in
making
long
me
lines.
hungry. I think you're going to see me on Friday for at least a moment. If not for a beer, then definitely for a lobster roll, because
there will be a line.
Sounds amazing. Yes.
Cool.
Wonderful. So how can people connect with Last Name Brewing, and where can they find your beer today?
Well, in terms of connecting with us, you can go to www.lastnamebrewing, all one word, .com. And we update our webpage daily for if we're having bands, for food trucks, the beers that we have on tap, et cetera. So anything that's going on at the brewery will be there. And then, of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram and all sorts of things that I'm not on, truthfully. The 2020
good call.
2020 election just drove me away. Yes. And then in terms of finding our beer, the easiest places to find it were at a number of local bars and restaurants, but you can also find our packaged beer at Bevmo, at Total Wine, at Vaughn's and Albertsons, local liquor stores. And so we're not that hard to find if you're within a reasonable distance of our brewery.
Wonderful. So congratulations again, Andy, on 20 wonderful years. What do you see for Last Name Brewers in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's really tricky. Just to get serious for a minute, the pandemic, I think that when the lockdowns initially happened, Bart Watson, who's an economist at the Brewers Association in Denver, was originally projecting that something, and don't quote me on this, but something like 60 or 70% of the breweries were going to go out of business because we are so dependent on the consumer market, on the hospitality business. And so, breweries that were based on selling beer to stores were going to do all right. But most breweries are not making most of their money that way. And so, so things were looking a little rickety. Then somehow some miracle happened, and Congress just started flooding all the businesses, industries with the PPP money, and that really saved a whole lot of businesses that otherwise would have been out. I think that might have been kind of a temporary thing, that there has been that it may have saved some businesses that would have, pandemic or no, may not have made it as long. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least some leveling off, that there's going to be some businesses that decide to exit. But at the same time, I think that there's always going to be this allure of craft brewing and having your own brewery that is going to bring new entrants in. And so, we'll see what happens there. But that is, it's going to be an interesting time.
Well, I hope that it continues to be successful for Last Name Brewers and everyone that continues to enjoy your delicious beer. Thank you so much for joining us today, Andy.
Okay, thank you, Yvette.
Beautiful. So for everybody listening, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. And don't forget to download the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. All right, everybody. Events. Mark your calendars again to attend the 2023 State of the Region, co-hosted by IEEP and San Antonio Regional Hospital, presented by Go Ontario Visitors Bureau at the Ontario Convention Center on Thursday, March 30th from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. You can still get your tickets today for $65. Tomorrow, the price goes up to $75. You can find those at sarh.org. Also on Thursday, March 30th, the Empire Strikers will be playing at the Toyota Arena with a match against the Tacoma Stars, with the kickoff starting at 6:05 p.m. Tickets starting at $5. You do not want to miss it. Don't miss my interview with Crystal and Gary Carpenter, founders of Special Angels Foundation, whose mission is to provide support in obtaining therapies, equipment, and resources to families raising children with special needs. Their vision is to empower families who are raising children with special needs and enable their child to thrive and grow towards independence. Next week, we will have Dr. Rick Axelrod of Livestream Blood. He is a board-certified clinical pathologist. Dr. Axelrod received his medical degree and performed his anatomic and clinical pathology training at Emory University School of Medicine at Emory University affiliated hospitals in Atlanta, Georgia. He also completed a fellowship in transfusion medicine at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California, and acquired his M.B.A. at the J.L. Kellogg Graduate School of Management, Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois. And he has also served as the Chief Medical Officer for Indiana Blood Center and Senior Director, Division Head, and Medical and Clinical Affairs with Avid Laboratories Diagnostic Division in Abbott Park, Illinois, and has worked in transfusion medicine since 1987. Everybody, you do not want to miss it. We will see you next week.